One. Welcome to You, Young Entrepreneurs Worldwide, the nonprofit podcast spotlighting the boldest youth innovators around the globe. I'm your host Ahmed, and today's guest truly exemplifies what it means to lead with purpose. Joining us is Taisiia Taran, a powerful changemaker from Ukraine whose response to crisis turned into a mission for healthcare transformation. From leading youth volunteer initiatives during wartime to building cancer treatment centers and pioneering neuro rehabilitation programs, Taisia proves that age is not a barrier to impact. Recognized as one of the top 50 students in the world, a speaker, an entrepreneur, and social leader, she's forging international partnerships and redefining what youth led innovation looks like, especially in the face of adversity. And a quick note before we dive in Russ, who's also joining us today, feel free to jump in at any point if you have any question or insight. We'd love to hear from you too.
Absolutely.
Taisia, welcome to the show. How are you feeling today?
Hello, I'm so happy to be here and honored to share everything about my startups.
That's great to hear. So let's start from the beginning. Can you take us back to the moment when the full-scale invasion of Ukraine began? What shifted inside of you that led to action?
Oh, must admit that with the beginning of the full-scale invasion of my home country, I encountered with some internal conflicts. Since my parents wanted to send me abroad, and obviously I was against of that. A little bit about my demographics is that I'm from the western part of Ukraine, the region that is considered as the safest one right now. And during that difficult time, I just realized that I needed to be here in order to help people around me. So, as a president of the Young Volunteers Committee, I established different initiatives where we help refugees and low income families with housing and employment opportunities. So, my mission was to help them rebuild their lives since these people were forced to leave their homes for their safety. And simultaneously, I also volunteered at the hospitals in my hometown, and I noticed significant challenges. They were overcrowded. Just imagine you are entering the hospital and you see a lot of injured soldiers just sitting silently on the floor in the corridor. And striving to reduce these gaps in the support system, I collaborated with displaced medical specialists and found new premises to establish three rehabilitation centers across eastern and western regions of Ukraine. And we're providing both physical and psychological therapies to Ukrainian military. And as a part of this nonprofit, we already fundraised more than $10,000 and also helped more than 3,000 people across the Ukraine.
That's actually very impressive. And those scenes in the hospital must be very hard to forget and probably also changed your whole, like, um, it shaped your whole action, taking action, if you know what I mean. And that's actually very impressive. So I'm really impressed. And at such a young age, what gave you the confidence to lead national initiatives and partnerships, like launching the rehab centers and raising those major funds?
Oh, I must admit that since my early childhood, and especially during the studies, was in the middle and high school, I was always into volunteering. I strongly remember when, as a head of my class, I always tried to organize, different charity fairs where we raised some fundings in order to help primarily some animal shelters in our hometown. But regarding the confidence and large-scale projects, honestly, I wasn't sure whether will I succeed or not. However, all my projects were grounded in New Jersey and helping my home country, which is currently facing a horrible circumstances, the all-out war. So through my startups, I just try to help people rebuild their lives and also raise the voice about the Ukrainian defenders who endure captivity and contribute to their freedom.
That's great. Of course, we've spoken before, and you've mentioned how a sense of personal mission can lead to international partnerships and large-scale projects. Can you walk us through how that unfolded for you?
Mm-hmm. Actually, kind of an interesting question because I must admit that reflecting my personal backgrounds and challenges that I encountered during my life, I always try to help people around me and especially regarding the healthcare systems because unfortunately with the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, I noticed a significant challenges, especially that the post-war generation of Ukraine, both elderly and younger one, is already facing different types of neurological disorders. For example, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, and depression. Moreover, the neurological disorders in Ukraine are becoming widespread among civilians, internally displaced people, and also children raised amid the war. And through my partnership with international institutions, I strive to provide essential care for people in order to help them rebuild their lives and to just renovate their lives in a positive way. So, kind of like that.
That's really impressive. Um, would you be able to share with us what the process was like building the first cancer-focused medical center in your region, especially with stakeholders across four countries?
Actually, it's kind of interesting story, and sometimes for me it sounds unbelievable and unrealistic because in fact everything has started in November 2024, and in February 2025, just like 4 months later, everything was established. Like we had an improved business prototype, we have an accepted stakeholders, and everything was ready just for the implementation. But let's start from the beginning. It was in early November when I was just sitting near my laptop, scrolling down unread messages on my work account, and I just saw this proposal to co-found the first cancer center in Ukraine. And I was just like, oh my God, no way. Because honestly, reflecting my personal background, I had individuals in my surroundings who were diagnosed with cancer. And since my early childhood, one of my main dreams was to one day be able to help such a patients in order just to provide them essential treatment for the cancer. And obviously, it's a large scale project, and it was one of my primary goals, but not right now. Maybe like in 5 years or even later. And just imagine you're a young entrepreneur, you're sitting and you see this chance. I realized that this is the time. And I collaborated with the Spectre Healthcare Intelligence Ukraine. This is an international consulting company which concentrates on the oncological treatment facilities. And after that, we started our partnership. We cooperated with international sponsors from different countries. You being more specific, it's Italy, Turkey, USA, and Canada. And we established four different departments of radiation that will provide appropriate cancer treatment. If I'm not mistaken, like in pronouncing of these treatments, it's chemical, radiation, neuroradiosurgery, and radiohyperthermia. And I can't wait to the start of the full implementation because right now the project is on the construction. And I truly believe that in the future it will help a lot of people with cancer treatment.
That's really inspiring. Can you tell us about your mental health neuro rehabilitation center? What gap were you trying to fill, and how was Harvard recognition help this project grow?
Oh, must admit that my initial idea was to launch like an additional department to this cancer center where we provide just like a neurorehabilitation to people. But then I just realized that with the full-scale invasion of my home country, the number of disabled individuals is rising, which is also impacting the increase of those who are unaware about the disabilities. And I noticed the significant and urgent need for providing some mental health recovery, especially for the marginalized communities in Ukraine. So, as a partner with the Spectre Healthcare Intelligence Ukraine, I just proposed my personal initiatives in founding the first Ukrainian innovative center for mental health neurorehabilitation, which is specifically designed for inclusive and disabled individuals. Must admit that Harvard recognition gave me just a new understanding that I can create a positive change in my society. Because exactly after that, I was invited for some regional channels where I had the privilege to share about my core mission in providing recovery guidance for disabled individuals in order to help them rebuild their lives. I also strive to provide additional assistance to people who have inclusive individuals in their surroundings so that they will not feel lost. Because neurological disorders, inclusivity, and disabilities are the areas that aren't fully explored but it's not making them a barriers for living these lives. So through my startups, I just try to contribute to the society where healthcare meets accessibility.
That's great. So we're both part, all three of us are actually part of the HUVTSP program, and we've talked a lot about pivoting and iteration, which Caleb, of course, has highlighted a lot. So my question is, how do you feel the role of literation and pivoting in your work, especially when launching social impact ventures in the healthcare field?
Oh, thank you so much for this question because it's kind of interesting. During our lecture at the HUTSP program, I was just sitting and thinking that, oh my God, I was kind of specific in launching my personal initiative. So obviously, I just didn't experience any pivoting or iteration during the whole construction of my startup. But then I just realized that I experienced it for the 3 times. So like, let's start from my the very first startup, which was providing some rehabilitation with physical and psychological exactly for the Ukrainian military. So if being more specific, it was kind of a narrow startup because I concentrated only on the physical and psychological rehabilitation, and it was designed only for the Ukrainian military and also people who are affected by the war. But then the new pivot that I expanded my idea and I co-founded the first cancer center. And then I just concentrate not only on the Ukrainian military, but also on the cancer patients, where I started to provide different types of radiation therapy for them. And another iteration was the expansion of my mission that I was concentrated on the inclusive individuals in Ukraine in order to provide essential neurorehabilitations that they are lacking of. And just like in the case, all my iteration, I would say it was zoom out pivot and also like customer services because my mission wasn't changed. Like I'm still concentrating on providing some healthcare assistance. But at the same time, I changed the perception in which I'm providing that. And at the same time, I changed and expanded my concentration on the communities in which I strive to provide some healthcare services.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Many young people hesitate to start something big, to start something because it feels way too big. What have you learned about starting before you're ready?
I would say that just believe in the craziness of your ideas because just let's reflect of all my experiences. I'm just a young person who one day decided that I want to help people in the healthcare field. Like it's a huge, and especially I must admit that I'm just a young entrepreneur who decided to launch a passion-driven startup with a hard tech business model, which I believe it's like pretty complicated to launch, especially for the young people because it requires a lot of international cooperation, partnerships, and funding as well. But since then, if I was scared, of course. Do you have some idea how to implement everything into reality? No. But I had my personal desire and passion, and I believe that my like crazy idea can create a positive change for the future. And I just wanna say that don't be afraid of any obstacles because before launching my very first startup, I was rejected in funding 63 times. But my passion driven me to launch everything and implement into reality because I strongly believe in the relevance of my project, especially with the full-scale war in Ukraine and how I want to help people to rebuild their lives.
That's really inspiring and thank you. And it's actually crazy that you got rejected 63 times and kept going. So that's some good dedication right there. Now
Thank
about
you.
your ventures, how would you say they have evolved over time? Like you went from volunteering to international consulting collaborations, etc.
I would say that I always strive to concentrate only on one specific field, which is like healthcare. So maybe the main involvement of my initiatives was just regarding the concentration of the group of communities and obviously the expansion of my mission. So obviously like I started in the middle school with organizing some charity events. Then I just realized that I want to help exactly people and exactly in the healthcare field. And after that, I just started my startup to grow in a case that I launch everything with some rehabilitation regarding the psychological and physical sessions and ended with a huge neurological startup with a hard tech business model. So basically my concentration was the same, but I strive to expand the whole idea and how I provide healthcare services to people around me.
That's great. And you've gotten a lot of recognition, and of course, well deserved. But what would you say? What achievement or moment do you think like represents why you received the honor of being one of the top 50 students in the world?
Oh my God, when you're saying that, honestly, I still cannot believe that I'm in the top 50 students in the world out of thousands of applications. And it's a huge honor for me to be in a community of such motivated change makers. Honestly, about my background and the whole application for this award, when I'm telling people about my activities, they think that I am living five different lives at the same time. But actually, it's not really the case, but sometimes I also believe in such a phrase about me. So, to start with, about my academic background, I'm the first student in my school who graduated 2 years earlier because I completed 9th, 10th, and 11th grades, which considered as a graduation ones in Ukraine. So I completed them in one academic year by passing more than 60 exams just in 9 months. And after that, I launched personal accelerated study program in my school where I helped more than 100 students to graduate earlier. And the relevance of my startup was that the full-scale invasion of Ukraine began, and a lot of students just lost an opportunity to navigate their studies in a safe environment. So I strive to help them to do that and to graduate earlier in order to just navigate their personal academic aspirations for the future. Another part of my personality is obviously professional sports. I am a master of sports of Ukraine in rhythmic gymnastics, and I had an honor to be a coach for the young athletes and guide them during their formative years in professional sports. And I also strive to challenge the societal misconceptions that sports cannot be for everyone, because it can be. And I conduct training sessions both in professional and inclusive levels. Another of my initiatives is my work in the European Youth Parliament, and I'm especially navigating the academic team. So I had an honor to be a chairperson and guide motivated delegates through the resolution writing, while I believe fostering a critical thinking about the systems we rely on to address different social issues through innovative collaboration. And another part of my personality is obviously my startups, which I consider as the most significant activity with the relevance of today's circumstances and also with the number of people that I helped. But regarding the recognition, I think that the main idea was it's not about the number of my activities, but about the mission and why I'm doing that. Because everything was connected. I tried to contribute to other people's lives and create a positive change. Like, for example, in my rhythmic gymnastics activities, when I tried to show to young gymnasts that this sport can be diverse and both inclusive individuals and professional athletes can participate in it. At the same time, when I strive to contribute to the academic life of the students who just faced a horrible academic obstacles regarding the war in Ukraine because they had just not ability to navigate their studies in safe environments. And also regarding the EYP, it's like abbreviation of the European Youth Parliament. I just try to show students, maybe highlight their specific passion and to show them a new journey in their lives that they can navigate and maybe in the future to choose future profession or something like that.
Thank you. I love that you brought up your work in the European Youth Parliament because we're going to shift to that. How would you say that has shaped your thinking as a leader and as an innovator?
I must admit that I adore my work in the European Youth Parliament because right now I had an honor to become a Rebuild Ukraine ambassador. As this fall, I will meet with a lot of motivated Europeans to discuss the future steps regarding the reconstruction of my home country. And as a part of my work, exactly in the academic team where I am served as a chairperson and vice president, I had an honor to chair different high-level sessions both across Ukraine and abroad. And I just noticed the stress of young people and how they're motivated towards making a positive change to the community around that. And my core mission is also to raise like an essential voice about the youth inclusion into international decision-making processes. As a part of my initiatives, I also strive to highlight that Ukrainian youth will not only be represented, but also shape like global discussions on peace building, inclusivity, and sustainable development, and at the same time contribute to the future reconstruction of Ukraine.
Thank you. So we're gonna go to some final reflections. Um, may I ask what's next for you? Any upcoming projects or goals you're excited about?
Yeah, of course. So my next step, especially regarding the Neurorehabilitation Center, it's it full representation abroad. I cannot reveal the country, unfortunately, but I'm so excited about that because it's gonna be like a part of my partnership with the Spectra Healthcare Intelligence Ukraine, where I will be honored just to represent everything and to just highlight again the specific missions that I strive to foster with my startup. So kind of excited about that because exactly after this step, the whole construction will begin, and I can wait for the full implementation of this project and to see the figures and the number of people that I can help with it.
Thank you. And if you could summarize your mission in one sentence, what would it be?
I think it would be obviously like the reduction in the healthcare inequalities faced by disabled people. This is exactly the field in which I'm trying to concentrate because I encountered with a lot of disabled individuals in Ukraine and I see their stress and I will help them to rebuild their lives and to be an active participants of our society. So I would say that obviously is reduction of inequalities.
Nice, thank you. And lastly, what advice would you give to your other young entrepreneurs listening right now who are looking to align their work with a bigger purpose?
Oh, first of all, I wanted to express a huge gratitude to all our viewers. And my main advice is that as a young entrepreneur, you will always face different obstacles. But your passion must be much more powerful than your reaction towards these flaws. And another my advice is kind of a cliche phrase, but I really like it, and it always gives me a lot of motivation, is that nothing is impossible because the word itself says I am possible. And also dreams come true because without that possibility, nature wouldn't allow us to have certain aspirations. So just like keep up with the good work, believe in yourself, and go ahead and only ahead.
Thank you. Such a great way to look at it, to be honest, and I fully agree with you. Taisa, thank you again for being here today. On behalf of the team, we're so excited to finally welcome you as the first you entrepreneur. You'll be part of a growing global community of young leaders making real impact. I'd love to give you the last word. How does it feel being recognized as a youth entrepreneur, and what does being part of this youth-led global program or movement mean to you?
Must admit that it's a huge honor for me to first of all being the first you entrepreneur, and it's a highly valuable recognition for me because through my work, I can inspire other young people and maybe to show them that having a personal mission and passion towards solving the specific problems will lead you towards the future success. So, as a part of my participation in EU entrepreneurships, I will try to show people that everything is possible and if you're having a personal desire, you can solve a global problems. Like my example, when I try to help people with all the challenges they faced during the full-scale invasion of my home country.
That's perfect. Thank you very much. And I'm honestly really inspired just reading through everything and listening everything you've accomplished already. Um, so for the listeners listening right now, or the watchers, of course, if you're feeling inspired, that's the point. Young people can change the world, and it often starts just by asking how you can help. That was it. And please don't forget to follow us on YouTube and on Spotify, and check out our website and our LinkedIn and we'll come with new guests again in like a couple of weeks, I think. So thank you very much.